Hello there. Today I'll be showing you how does The Witcher 3 run on a GTX 1060, the 3 GB version, and an i3 7100 CPU. For the settings, I will be running the game on my native resolution. In your case, if you're running on 720 or 1080, it will be just as great. Just keep in mind that right now I'm recording and this will cut out some of the frames. My maximum frames are set on 60. Sometimes it will drop down because this game will most of the time kill your CPU, because since I'm using a dual core one, it can't keep up, and you will see in the usage that sometimes it will go on up to 99 and it will stay there, and you can see that it will actually slow down your GPU. Anyway, I'm not using Hairworks, no point in it. And the rest, everything is set on ultra, but if you will see too many lag, I would recommend setting the shadows and the foliage down to, let's say, high or medium. On post-processing, everything is on besides bloom, and blur it's only something personal. I don't actually like them. Sharpening is in off, but it's a personal use. So right now, as I am in Novigrad, you can see my CPU is already at 90% usage. My GPU is sitting at 75. This, the GPU has no problem with this game, it will run it perfectly. The CPU, since it's a dual core one, it doesn't even matter, it's a 3.9 GHz. That will not actually help you here. As you will move along, you will see right now my CPU is going around 93%. My frames are sitting at 40, but please bear in mind that I'm actually recording, and some lag spikes will be caused because of it. Mostly, as you can see, your CPU will sit way above your GPU, meaning that your GPU will not be fully utilized, which is sad, but when you have dual core one, you can't do anything about it. But as right now you can see, I'm right in the center of Novigrad, mainly because here you will have most of the NPCs, and this will be, let's say, the crowdest place you can find to actually test it out. Other times when you will be outside roaming around, you will see that your frames will be much more stable because there's not so much things to render. That was a lag spike. You mainly in Novigrad or in higher density places, it will take some time, like that 1 second, until everything will load in and your game will freeze for like exactly 1 second. As of right now, as you may know, in case you have a quad core, let's say it's running around, I don't know, 3 GHz, this game will have no problem because your CPU will keep up and you'll have the pleasure of seeing your GPU fully utilized. You can see right now it's only sitting at 66% usage, 60, and bear in mind that everything is set up, everything is cranked up, and the GPU is still most of the time not even doing a lot because the CPU can't let him, because the CPU can't handle it. But if you take the time to actually go out and explore, you will see that the frames will be exactly around 60. We will go actually swimming, and the game will run much smoother, but depends on what are you actually doing in the game. Let's say if we start running into the wild, you will actually see some normal frames because there is actually nothing to load in for the game, and your CPU will not have such a big of a problem dealing with it. Right now 100% usage on the CPU, that is not actually that great, and it's important in case you have let's say a not so great cooling system for the CPU, you will actually see your temperature go really high, mainly because right now we are just torturing the CPU. Let's say we are running around, not actually so much to do, not so much things to load in, everything looks beautiful. We are having 60 frames, of course, because in this place it's something normal to actually have such frames at this GPU. And you can see again your CPU is again at 100%. The RAM usage will be not big of a deal, sometimes we'll have around 5 or 6 gigs used. And besides that, everything is nice and beautiful. But a very big reminder, if you're planning to buy a new CPU, always try and aim for a quad-core one, because in this game this one is a CPU killer if it's not a quad-core. Right now I'm not actually using any other apps in the background to use my CPU, so the CPU is running only in the game, and you can see how well it is struggling with it. I'm not saying that it's not playable, it is very playable, mainly if you, let's say, set the frames around 45 or 30, that will be no problem for it, it will handle it without any problems, but while you're trying to keep it at 60, you will have a little problem, and I would recommend turning some settings off of that reason. Roaming around, as I told you, no problem with it. And let's go to a new place. Since I show you Novigrad how it will run, let's go into the new zone from the DLC. Right in the center, let's see how it will handle it there. Alright, so everything is shiny and beautiful, the frames are sitting around 50, our CPU is still dying most of the time. And one more thing you will notice when you're playing, that sometimes the texture will take some time to load in, the sound will not start immediately.
Best cure for the beast, a witcher. That's my knee settings.
Right, so you can see how it will actually perform. I would recommend, if you really want 60 frames in this game, particularly in this one, try and keep your settings not always on ultra, because there is no actual point on keeping it on ultra if you want 60 frames. If you want 30, then no problem, keep it there, it will run perfectly, but right now as it is, it's much better to try and lower down your settings. Let's say not here, we try and lower down, let's see, the shadow quality on high and foliage down to medium. Right, everything rendered in. And by playing this way, what will happen? You will not see so many stutter, because it will not take so much time to load in. And while going to the very high density places, it will work much better. In combat, there's no actual problem, because you're not fighting in very high density places with a lot of NPCs. Let's say maybe they're around 10. That's not a big problem. It will handle it. And as you know, I'm recording, so the recording part will actually take out some of my frames. You will actually be locked mostly all of the time at 60 frames. So it is very capable of doing so, and you can see 70%, sometimes 30% usage on the GPU. 30% more place for it to actually do more stuff, but we can't because of the CPU.
I'm so glad.
And most of the time you can see I only roamed around, going around, making it load everything in, because that will be the only time when it will actually work more. Because when you're stuck in, let's say, a little zone, you have a quest or killing some mobs in that place, the frames will stay there because there's actually nothing new to load in. And that will be all of it. The game is very playable on this GPU, but I would not recommend using a dual-core CPU for this game, or mainly for any new game, because sometimes you actually see that this usage is way high and you can't do anything about it, because it wasn't meant for such games. But if you want, you can look at the ground or in the sky, and you will always have 60 frames per second with everything on maximum, and you will be good. And that would be all. In case you want to see any else game running on this spec, tell me and I will try and make a video about it.